Hello, hello. This is your friend David, and this is a supplemental. Officially, 4S is still on hiatus. We will be coming back bigger and better than ever with a slightly new format in February. And so we're gearing up for that, and we're looking forward to it. Also, in case you don't know, Red Letters Season 2 is now underway. So make sure that you reserve your seat. There are no seats or no reserves. Just go sign up. Patreon.com/red letters. We are back in business there after our season break. And season 2 is going to be possibly even better than season 1. Then again, consider the source. That news out of the way, I do have planned for season 2 of Skeptics and Seekers a debate/discussion. I don't know that it will follow any official debate format, but with a interlocutor that doesn't come on the show frequently enough. I'll just leave it there. He's welcome anytime, but he's agreed in principle to have a discussion with me on the subject of meaning and purpose. And so I've been giving that some thought in my spare cycles, and I wanted to share some of those thoughts with you today. So this is just a very brief, hopefully, a very brief supplemental. While I have a few minutes here in the morning, let me just go over to my notes. These are some things that I will be sharing on the podcast, on the presentation, when that presentation actually happens. So I want to start with the definitions of meaning and purpose. I thought about just using one of the words, meaning or purpose, but meaning and purpose kind of go together. So after looking up a bunch of definitions, this is kind of my own assignment of definitions. So meaning is something that refers to a thing's significance. When we talk about something having meaning or a person having meaning, we're talking about an assignment of significance or value. Sometimes value is used in this way as well. You know, that diamond ring that my wife wears has significance greater than the materials, one might say. All right. Well, what is the significance of that diamond ring? It's not just the intrinsic value of the materials. There's something deeper that is there and that we assign significance to. So that's largely what we mean by meaning. Purpose is a description of what a thing is intended to do. So purpose, in my mind, is more active. It's more of a call to action. Meaning is kind of a static description of value and significance, while purpose is the motivating force that makes something do the next thing. So I am here for a purpose. It is to say that I'm here to do a specific thing. And all of my actions are pointed toward doing or activating that specific thing. So even though I see some distinction between meaning and purpose, I don't see any particular reason to turn them into two completely distinct things, because common usage lumps these two things together. In fact, one of the definitions of meaning that I came across incorporated the word to mean something. It's a harder word to defined than you think, and it often uses itself to define itself. So probably not the best definition that I ran across there, but other definitions often incorporate the word purpose. And when you do the same with purpose, you often find meaning incorporated in at least a part of the definition. And so we use these words together, and even though they are different things technically, we tend to use them interchangeably. And so for the rest of this video, and when I do the discussion, I will be using these words interchangeably. So I just wanted you to have some flavor of what I'm talking about when I use the words. Now, these words are very generic, and different people might apply different definitions to these words. I am not entirely sure what definitions my interlocutor will be using, and so I'm sure that we will spend some of the first few minutes of our discussion hammering that out, so at the very least we know what the other person is talking about, and that should eliminate the possibility of talking past each other. So my first point beyond definitions is that life is meaningless beyond the local and the temporal. So I'm just going to jump right out there and say it. I know that this is a truth claim that then someone might say, well, we'll prove it. I don't know that I can. I don't know that there is a way to. So while this is stated as a claim, this is simply my opinion, my belief, and I'm not entirely sure how to get underneath it except with negatives, to say that I see no meaning beyond the local and the temporal, and no one has presented anything to me that looks like proof that there is a meaning beyond the local and the temporal. So to the best of my observation, life is meaningless beyond the local and the temporal. Let's break it down a little bit. Let's make sure that you understand the observation I am making. Now, the first part's pretty simple. Life is meaningless. I mean, I could have put a period right there, and I feel like I would have been completely justified. The universe knows nothing of life on planet Earth. And let's say that we are the only planet with our type of life on it. The universe is indifferent to that fact. It does not care. It did not care before we were here. It will not care after we are gone. The universe will just keep doing what the universe does. There's nothing that we can do that can have universal significance. Let's presume for a moment that there are life forms like ourselves in other parts of the universe. You know, in planet Zerxar, in the 7th galaxy to the left. There's nothing that we can do that would have any impact on the Zerxarians. Not a damn thing. So we can be here, we can be good people, we can be bad people, we can, stop comets from destroying our planet, we can blow the planet up. The Zerxarians don't care. It will not affect them. So this is what I mean by life being meaningless. You can live or you can die. If I don't know you, your death doesn't really affect me. I didn't know you were there in the first place. I won't know that you died. Doesn't matter. If you are just hearing me for the first time, welcome. But also, if I die tomorrow, it's not going to matter. It's not, you're still going to have to buy a gallon of milk and cereal for the kids. Not one thing about your daily routine will change whether or not I take my next breath. So, but to the extent that you can hear this podcast at all, maybe that's not entirely true. Maybe you will have a desire to listen to the next thing I say, and then you hear that I've died, and that will make you sad for a few minutes. And then you will still have to figure out how to buy milk and cereal for your kids. So this is where the second part comes in, beyond the local and the temporal. Now, in my house, there's me, my wife, a dog, and a cat. That's my household. My life has significant meaning, great meaning, huge significance in this local, 1,100 square foot apartment, right? It's huge, outsized significance. I am the big fish in this small pond, and the other fish take notice of everything I do. It matters. Their lives change based on what I do. Now, the fact is, every member of this household also has the same outsized meaning and significance. When my cat has some kind of respiratory problem, we're trying to get her into the vet. When my cat goes into a sneezing fit, it fills me with great anxiety and sadness. That affects what I do, which affects everyone else. My wife is my wife. She is the queen of the castle. Everything that she does affects everyone in the castle. Everyone. Everything. So local significance. There's a great deal of local meaning here, right? And temporal. So based on time, right? Of time. That's what we mean when we talk about a thing that's temporal, time-based, time-bound. The significance I have in this 1,100 square feet is only for time, not eternity. Before I was born, I had no significance. Before my grandparents met, I had no significance. There was no me. There was no thought about me. There was no significance there. And after I am dead, there will be some lingering significance, but it won't linger forever. My wife will remarry. My dogs will lick whoever is in the house. They don't care. My cat is going to avoid and be standoffish to whoever's in the house. She doesn't care. She just wants the expensive cat food, and they don't care. My wife will be sad, but if I know my wife at all, she'll remarry inside of a year. She'll be fine. Don't worry about my wife. She's good. And at some point before she dies, she will forget what I looked like. And after she dies, and after the animals die, and after my parents die, and after my brothers die, and after all the people who know me die, and most of those people are older than me, so that won't be very long. Let's call it 100 years. My temporal significance will fade to just about nothing. Nothing. The fact that I was here will have almost no impact on the people that are here 1,000 years from now, let alone eternity. Eternity doesn't care what I do right here and now. So, right. So local and temporal meaning, I do believe that we have that. Whether we want to or not, we are very significant in the small pond of influence we are in. We can't help it. in a small fishbowl, even if a fish just wants to swim around and mind their own business and not interact with the other fish, they are disturbing the water where the other fish are. It matters, right? So meaning is not something that we need to assign or that anyone needs to assign to us. In a local and temporal sense, we have meaning whether we want to or not, because we affect other people in that local sphere. So in that sense, we are meaningful creatures, and what we do is meaningful. It matters to the people around us. All right. Talk about brevity. I was planning to be done with the whole thing by now. So, apparently this is not going to be brief. Why is it important that someone else other than you assign significance and direction to your life? This is a question that I have for people who believe that life needs to have some kind of meaning and purpose. Now, spoiler alert, you're looking at my notes. I don't think that life needs that at all. We'll get there, I guess. But if you believe that life requires some kind of meaning, some kind of purpose, you tend to be a person that believes that that meaning and purpose must be assigned by some outside factor. So you can't assign meaning to your life. You can't assign yourself purpose, at least not any that is, quote unquote, ultimately meaningful. That assignment must come from the outside, from some type of authority who can ascribe meaning and give direction to a life. I don't understand this thought process. And so my interlocutor, you should know that I don't understand this thought process if that's where you're coming from. So I'm going to need you to explain to me why someone else besides yourself gets to assign your life any significance. And why does someone outside of yourself get to give you marching orders or direction or purpose for your life? It seems to me if you choose to accept someone else's meaning and direction for your life, you are still in control of your meaning and direction. Okay, you just took the lazy way out and you let someone assign it, but you still had to make the decision to accept that assignment. If I give your life meaning and you don't like the meaning I give it, you will simply reject it. But if someone else gives your life meaning and you like that assignment of meaning, you accept it and you say that that is your meaning, right? But it does not matter how authoritative the authority is that assigns you meaning. It's still up to you to accept that assignment of meaning or not. And you do that all the time. You reject the meaning that other people give your life when it doesn't suit you, and you accept the assignment of meaning when some other being assigns it when it suits you. It's all a matter, though, of you choosing your meaning. So you might think that you are avoiding the issue of assigning yourself meaning, but you're not. Because at the end of the day, you're just going between the opinions of what your meaning should be, and you're accepting the one that you think is most authoritative. That's still you making that assignment. The same thing is true with direction or purpose in your life. It's not different from meaning here. You might wander around thinking, well, what am I supposed to do? What is my purpose? I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. Someone outside of myself who is greater than myself, who has the authority to assign purpose, must speak to me in a way that I understand and assign me some kind of purpose that I can follow. Okay, great. But that's still you ultimately making the assignment, because you look at that purpose and you decide, yes, that's pretty good. I will accept that direction. It's always up to you to accept the assignment of meaning and purpose. And so, as I see it, that's indistinguishable from you assigning your own meaning and purpose, because we all do the same thing. We all take cues from what other people say and what other people advise and how other people live. We take those cues and we decide our meaning and duties based on those social cues. So it all comes from people outside because we're social creatures. How could it be anything other? You're just saying that there is an authority even greater that you take the assignment from. And while I don't think the opinion of society is greater than your own opinion, it still rests on you, whether you believe in a godlike being who gives assignment, or whether you just believe in being a good citizen and in society and accepting that assignment, or whether you're a free spirit and you want to create your own assignment. The buck still lands on your shoulders to accept your significance, whatever you think that is, and to give your life direction, whatever you think that is. And so for me, I don't see where it adds anything to the mix by saying that the assignment of meaning and direction comes from the outside. At the end of the day, it can never ultimately come from the outside. It always has to be from you. It has to be stamped with your seal of approval. Okay. If someone did create us, I keep talking around God. I could just say God here. I think God is kind of a loaded term in these discussions. If you're having a purely philosophical discussion, there's no need to ever mention God. We could just talk about certain God concepts. I think that would actually provide more clarity than just saying God, because people have different ideas about God. So in this particular case, I'm talking about some supreme creator being. All right? I don't actually care whether it's a personal creator being or not. So let's just focus on this hypothetical creator being. I guess for that matter, I don't care if it's a supreme being or not. So if someone created us, why should that require us to enslave ourselves to their assignment of our meaning and purpose? Right? We talked about this a little bit on the last point, but let's say that your God, the God that you think exists, is the one that created you. Okay, good. You were created, and it's an intelligent being, and let's say it's a personal being who is loving, and they want the best for you. Great. All right. And let's layer some things on top of that. They're also all knowing, and so they know what's best for you. All right, whatever best for you even means. So let's present all of that. You still haven't explained why you should just blindly accept their idea of meaning and purpose for your life, because this being gave you what Christians think of as libertarian free will. I don't believe in libertarian free will, but that's beside the point. Let's speak as if libertarian free will existed so that we can fully engage this idea. You were given libertarian free will, and that free will is kind of meaningless if the first thing you have to do with it is set it aside and be enslaved to someone else's superior thoughts and ideas. It makes no sense. It's kind of cruel, in fact, because you have the ability to think for yourself, and you have the propensity to act in what you think are your own self-interests, but you are emotionally enslaved to do everything that someone else tells you and to feel about yourself what someone else says that you should feel about yourself. And so at that point, I don't understand the purpose of free will. What's that even all about? You have free will, but you can't use it. You have judgment, but you can't use it. Because God's going to tell you what your significance is. So you don't have the right to think about your own significance. You just have to accept it as it's handed down by someone. And you don't have the right to think about your own purposes, to give your own life direction. Someone else gives you direction. You are just a slave at that point. You use your free will to become a slave. It doesn't make any sense to me. My parents are the closest thing to my creators, and they certainly have had some advice and direction about my life over the years, which I have mostly ignored over the years, and which I think has been a good thing over the years. I'm happy with the life that I have, and I'm happy that I don't have the life that my parents envisioned for me. They don't get to tell me what my life is going to be. I love my parents. My parents love me. But it's not like their lives came up roses. I don't want my life to be just like their life. They don't know what they're talking about. So I'm very happy with my life that no one gets to tell me what to do with my life, because if they can, then it's not my life. It's theirs. And if you say, well, your life belongs to God, then I don't even know why we're having a discussion. You've just given up, essentially. And it seems like you're trying to get me to just give up with you, but I don't see that. Even if this God existed, we could sit down and talk. Your God could sit down and explain to me why he feels that my life has a certain significance. He can explain to me the direction he has for my life, and I can consider it, and I can decide whether I agree with that or not, whether I choose to take that on or not. But the Christian isn't even doing that. They're not taking what they think their God feels and wants for them and considering it. In their minds, what they're doing is just enslaving themselves to it. They're not considering it. They're doing the opposite of considering it. Thy will be done. Whatever thy will is, okay, that's fine. Wherever you send, I'll go. That's fine. So that's actually an abrogation of the responsibility to give your life meaning and purpose. Now, by the way, when someone enslaves themselves to another's opinions, that's still a choice. So you're still making the choice to do that. But what you're doing is you're choosing not to assign yourself meaning and purpose, and you're just choosing to go with whatever someone else says. Humans do that with other humans as well. And I think it's bad when they do it. But you have to give me some reason why I would want to do that. I mean, you do you. If that's what floats your boat, you go for it. But you have to give me a reason to want to make that same choice, to abrogate my personal responsibility to exercise free will and just enslave myself to someone else's will. I don't think you could do that, but that's the job that you have to do. All right. Finally, once again, just a claim here based on my opinion, based on my observations. We don't need meaning or purpose to have a life of fulfilled desire. Okay. Let's go over this. We don't need meaning or purpose. Let's do a full stop right there. We don't need meaning or purpose. Right? When I say we, it sounds like I'm speaking for the entire human race, and I'm not. I can't. I don't need a sense of meaning or purpose. I don't need it. Don't need it. I have no existential angst about being molecules in motion. None whatsoever. Don't care. So, this idea really creates anxiety in a lot of people. It creates emotional turmoil in a lot of people. The idea that they are meaningless. And so, if you are emotionally insecure, you probably should have turned off this podcast sooner than this, but turn it off now. You are meaningless. I know this is going to be a soundbite. It's going to be taken way out of proportion. I'm here for it. You are meaningless. You have no purpose. You are walking dirt. As an alien in Star Trek said, you are ugly bags of mostly water. That's what you are. Deal with it. Right? If that makes you nervous, if that gives you some sense of angst, if that makes you feel like you have no reason to live and you just as well die as opposed to live, you need to call a crisis helpline, whatever is local to you, and talk to someone. Okay? I'm serious about that because there are a lot of people who come to that conclusion, that realization that they don't really mean anything, and then they want to commit suicide. And I don't want anyone to commit suicide. So there's just real talk. I don't know if this is emotionally healthy for you or not, but I'm not going to pretend like I think that you have meaning or purpose to make you feel better about yourself. You can do that pretense on your own. So if the alternative is suicide, by all means, go ahead and spin yourself whatever fiction you need about your meaning and purpose and get on with your life. All right. I don't need any kind of fiction like that. I don't. I am meaningless. I am insignificant. I have no direction at all beyond the local and the temporal, as I described in in an earlier bullet point. None of it matters. And I don't care. And I feel fine. Okay, I'm okay with that. I am like my dog. My dog wakes up in the morning and yawns and stretches and gets off the bed. Yeah, he sleeps on the bed. He gets off the bed and he goes and pees, hopefully on one of the pee pads we have around the house. And, he's off to the races. Let's do something. Let me wake the cat. I'm awake. It's a new day. Let's chase. I need to sniff your butt. Lick. I want a treat. I think I'll eat. Oh, look at that over there. I think I'll run. Run. I'm back. Tired. I think I'll rest. That's my dog, right? My dog has never once stopped to consider whether he has any significance at all. He has never stopped to consider his direction. He is a desire fulfillment machine. That is what he is. That's all he is. He has desires and then he fulfills them. And then he calls it a day and does it all again the next day. You think that you are somehow more noble than that as a human. You are not. You are not more noble. You go through your day fulfilling your desires. Whether you want to admit it or not, that is what and that is all you ever do. Now, you have certain complicated desires that you fulfill. For instance, you have a desire to be a good citizen. Okay, well, that's going to constrain certain behavior. It's going to give you certain social values. It's going to cause you to want to do some things, right? But underneath it is your desire to be a good citizen, and you go about the business of fulfilling that. You want to be a good servant of God if you're a Christian. Okay. Right. So that's going to constrain certain behaviors. That's going to dictate other behaviors, but it stems from your desire to fulfill the task of being a good servant of God. It's all desire fulfillment. You want to live in your house. You don't want to go to work. You don't want to be nice to your coworkers. But if you don't do all of those things, you're not going to get a paycheck that supports you living in your house. It's all pointed at desire fulfillment. You are no more complicated than my dog or your dog. You just have more complicated brain states and more complicated social structures. But at the end of the day, everything you do is pointed toward fulfilling your desires. Even if your day is filled with ultimate misery, you have the desire to break out of that misery. And you're going to try to do things that help you break out of that misery or make that misery less. You are always and ever fulfilling your desires. If you live a life of self-sacrifice to help others, even if at harm to yourself, you are doing that to fulfill a certain desire to be the kind of person who self-sacrifices. That is all you ever are. You are a dog chasing your tail. And so am I. And so is my dog. Okay? I just have more complicated desires. And I have to fulfill those desires through more complicated social structures. I do not need a sense of ultimate direction or purpose to chase those desires. And then at the end of my life, look back on that life and realize that I've had a life of fulfillment every step of the way. Right? So, I mean, you could have a sense of purpose if it is your desire to have a sense of purpose, but you don't need it for desire fulfillments. And when I talk about desire fulfillments, I'm not talking about hedonism. I'm not talking about eating everything you see and drinking, till drunk all day and night and partying and sex and rape, plunder, and pillaging. That's not what I'm talking about. Because most of us don't have that desire. The reason why we don't have more of that is because we have evolved as the kind of social creature that thrives living a different kind of life than that. All right. So it's still desire fulfillment, even if it's not, your cartoonish idea of hedonism. I want to make that clear. No one has to assign your life significance. Everybody in the world, everybody on the internet can listen at my work, watch my work, and decide that my life has no significance. I am not troubled by that. I'm gonna check my blood sugar and make sure I have enough room for a tasty peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And I'm gonna eat that, and then I'm gonna make another video because I'm perfectly happy with my own meaning and significance. All right, so that's it. So we've defined meaning and purpose in certain ways. I kind of think they are interchangeable in usage. That's kind of how they are. Life is ultimately meaningless, and I could say purposeless here as well, beyond the local and the temporal. Okay, locally, temporally, there's a certain forced significance on the life of a social creature. No choice. You disturb the air that other people breathe, so you are significant. But beyond the temporal and the local, no significance. It's not important for someone else other than yourself to assign you significance, right? Or direction for your life, purpose. You can assign your own significance and you can assign your own direction. So have at it. Explain to me why it's important for you, but more importantly, why you think it's important for me that I accept someone else's assignment. If someone else created us, some kind of creator God, even that, why does that require me to give up my free will and enslave myself to that person's sense of meaning and purpose? I mean, you can do it, makes you feel good, whatever. But why do you think I have to do it? What happens if I don't? what What's it to you? So help me understand that. And then finally, we don't need meaning and purpose to have a life of fulfilled desires, because at the end of the day, what we are all doing is fulfilling desires, complex social desires. Okay. Those are my cliff notes. Those are the points that I will be making when that show finally happens. Feel free to have some discussion about this in the comments, and we will see you. Oh, by the way, the comments, skepticsandseekers.squarespace.com. Log into your Discuss account and discuss away. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.